Hello, everyone. Welcome to Laser Focus. This is the deep dive pop culture podcast from Nerdist. I'm Kyle Anderson. Thank you for listening and watching. That's right. You can be watching these episodes on YouTube as we talk about Andor Season 2. You can find that at our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Nerdist, or just search Laser Focus Nerdist on YouTube. Joining me this week to talk about Andor Season 2, Part 2, episodes 4, 5, and 6 is none other than longtime Nerdist writer and friend of this show, Eric Diaz. Hey, buddy, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm very excited to talk about Andor, which has been much on my mind these last few weeks and days and everything. And yeah, there's a lot to talk about with this arc. And I think the last of the 3 episodes, there's a lot of stuff that I was sort of not happy about for different reasons, and we can certainly get into that. But before we do that, I do want to know what, your brief opinions on what the first arc was for season 2.
I think the first arc was good. The first season is a lot to live up to, I think, and because they really kind of fired on all cylinders on that first season. There's a lot of wheel spinning, I think, in this first arc. I think it could have been much stronger if it was 2 episodes, but they were committed to this. Every 3 episodes is a year in the life of Cassian Andor, and so it had to be 3 episodes. But I'm like, I don't know that we needed 3 episodes to get to this wedding. I don't know that we needed 3 episodes, or at least 2 episodes on Yavin, which turned out to whatever the planet that Cassian crashes on, which, surprise, is Yavin.
Yeah,
but it was well acted. It was well done. Like this show is never they never drops the ball on, just character development, acting from anyone, so like, I didn't feel like I wasted my time, but it's still at the same time, I'm like, you're asking people to watch this 3-hour movie basically every week instead of a individual episode. So it would have been nice if it had been shorter, but like no really big complaints. Like, I think him stealing the TIE fighter was very cool.
Absolutely.
That whole sequence at the beginning.
Yeah, that was really great. I liked all of the kind of heisty stuff. And then at the end, when he comes in and blows everybody up, and by everybody, I mean that very small battalion of Imperials. I agree with that. We talked last week, Ro and I, about what do would this show have worked if it had been week to week the way it was in season 1? And I think a lot of the complaints that were levied against season 1 was that it took a while to get going because of, we didn't know at the time that it was like, individual mini arcs. We just kind of were following this, and it didn't seem like anything was leading to anything. Now we know it's mini arcs. And so I think maybe Disney was sort of going, well, let's just get it over with. But like you said, I do think that it could have been 2 episodes.
It could have been 2,
which is maybe true for this one too, but.
Yes. And I liked it. I liked it, but like really looking at it all as a whole, and like, did that need to be 3 hours long? Did that need to be a 3-hour movie? Because that's what these all are now. They're 3-hour. It's a chunk of 3-hour movies. So
yeah.
But again, like, is there anything bad? No. You know what I mean? I can't sit there and be like, this is bad, or this is bad television, or I mean, I have my own feeling. I have very strange feelings about Andor overall, which is, I think it's very, very good TV that I don't think is sometimes very good Star Wars. Like, I don't know if that makes any sense. Like, this is good TV. This is a good drama. I have still mixed feelings of if there should be a Star Wars that a 12-year-old is bored by. Like, I kind of feel like there's a very consistent tone from bad to good, from the very worst of, Star Wars to the very best of it. The tone is pretty consistent across animation, across comics, and like it's this thing. And Andor's not that thing. Like, Andor is a drama, is a war drama that goes to, as we've just seen, very dark places. And it's very compelling TV. Sometimes I'm like, is this Star Wars anymore? I
do know what you mean. I was thinking about that too, especially watching episode 6, at how, like, it's very, well, it's rare that there's, we talked about this with season 1 as well. It's rare that there's like actual sexuality on Star Wars
at all.
Not just like googly eyes at people, but like
the
fact that they are actually kissing. There's implied sex, and then there's So it's in these people are having adult relationships, which I think is good. I think overall it's good to say like, well, this is how people are. But I do understand what you mean. Like this, I personally love it. This is the kind of stuff that I wanted from Star Wars for a long time, but since they hadn't been giving it to us for basically 40 years, 50 years now at almost this point, that I'm not sure that was 100% the way to go. That said, I do agree. It's like, it is my favorite, other than the first three movies, like it is my favorite Star Wars thing.
Yeah. A lot of people think that. A lot of people.
Yeah.
I think it's okay. So here's how my feeling. I think it's the best Star Wars thing since the originals. I don't know if it's my favorite because my favorite is whatever gives me what I want out of Star Wars. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, do I think from an acting, writing level, it's the best? Yes. Is it my favorite? Does Mando give me more of what I like out of this franchise? Probably, but I don't think it's better. Like objectively, like I'd nominate, if Andor was a movie, I'd nominate it for an Oscar. Like you wouldn't probably nominate even the very best Mandalorians, for an Oscar for anything. I mean,
and they are just really doing different things. And I think that's kind of what I like about it is that it and whether they ever do anything like this again, I'm just kind of happy we have it.
Yeah.
But like, I think it illustrates that there's a lot you can do with the Star Wars formula, or at least the Star Wars universe. Not unlike what we're seeing with Star Trek. Like, we've raved on this podcast and elsewhere how exciting it is that they've kind of varied up what Star Trek is. There's cartoons for children, and there's also like fun kind of adventures with Strange New Worlds, but then there's also really dark, heady stuff like with Picard and with Discovery, and then you have like ostensibly a grown-up adult animated series with Lower Decks. And so I like that they're giving themselves the leeway there, and I have been kind of worried, especially after Ahsoka, that it's just like, is it all just going to be like this? Like, we knew that Andor season 2 was on the horizon, but it's sort of the promise of the difference of what could be Star Wars has really kind of become re-homogenized because of the Disney Plus era.
I think Star Trek, though, just always has had more variation.
Yeah, this is true.
Than Star Wars. Star Wars, everything that Star Wars is kind of baked into that first movie, or at the very least, the first three movies. Everything is an extrapolation from that. Star Trek can be, not to turn this into a Star Trek podcast, but like Star Trek can be time travel. Star Trek can be goofy. The next episode can be deadly serious. It crosses genres. Star Wars crosses genres too, but all of those genres that it crosses are sort of baked into that original trilogy, and they've never really gone out of it. They've never really done, for example, horror isn't something that they've ever done in Star Wars. I'm hearing rumors now that they are going to do that.
Which would be great.
Which would be very cool. I mean, they've sort of done it actually in Ahsoka because we did get zombie stormtroopers, but
that's right.
But not really full on horror, because that's just not something that was in the first one. You know what I mean? Like they're very loyal to what Lucas did in that sense of like, this is what Star Wars is. You don't break, you don't break from it. Like they've never done time travel really, because that's just not something that was in the original. So it's like, oh no, we can't do that. That's not what, Star Trek doesn't have that problem, has never had that problem, even going back to the original series. So they've just always had a bigger canvas in that sense. So it's a little bit, and I think the Star Wars fan base is a little bit more rigid. I think the Star Wars fan base is a lot more like, no, this is how it is. And look, I mean, we know how they are, and and I don't know that we're ever going to get something like this ever again.
Yeah. Which is so weird considering how much people love it. Well, it's critically acclaimed. It's the most critically acclaimed thing in the Star Wars universe, maybe ever. And it's also like people like us really like it. And it is sort of, I don't really know. I think if you like prestige drama television of any sort, this is the type of show that you should be enjoying. I think the same people who like The Last of Us would enjoy the show. The people who like The Last of Us don't expect there to be, they expect there to be a level of like grown upness to The Last of Us. Whereas, to your earlier point, I think that like this does skew much older than most Star Wars things. And tonally much heavier.
I wouldn't have liked it as a kid. I love it now, but like if I was a kid and I loved the original movies, I would have been like, why are they talking so much?
I still kind of thought they talked a lot when I was a kid in Return of the Jedi. I was like, why are they talking so much?
Did you really?
Yeah, I don't know why. Like for even though they, there's more kind of lulls in Empire Strikes Back, but when I was a kid, it was always just like after the Jabba scene until basically they, I don't even know when. Sometime when they're on Endor, I guess the battle. I was just like, golly, why is this taking so long? And it, by the way, it might not have taken. I haven't done an actual clocking of it, but I just remember when I was a kid that it seemed like it took forever. That's neither here nor there. I was a dumb kid. We all were dumb kids. What I liked about Andor is that it's sort of it does take something that was in the original trilogy, which is, or at least was hinted at, which is that there is a war going on. There is this big fascist regime, whether they call it that or not.
Yeah.
Who and a plucky band of rebels. I mean, Lucas himself did use World War II as a big influence on it, and also the Vietnam War. I think later that was sort of foisted upon it, but he used World War II footage as like the do space battles like this, like
the dogfight in the Death Star,
the dogfighting,
straight up, like the storyboards of it by his own admission were just like do this, and he showed ILM the dogfights footage from World War II. I mean the prequels and the original trilogy really is. It's like the prequels are the rise of European fascism, and then the original trilogy is World War II. It's the the alliance, versus the big fascist monster,
Yeah.
So it's always been there.
And this, I think there was bits of Rogue One that could have. I think if Tony Gilroy had been brought in earlier into the process, because famously, that movie had a lot of reshoots and just things about it that were not like the vision, I guess, was not 100% there. I think if Tony Gilroy had been involved earlier on, because you can see bits of it. I forget if I said this last week with Ro or not, but the scene from Rogue One that is the most like the show is the first scene we see Cassian, where he meets with an informant and then kills him just because it's like, well, I don't need you anymore and you're a liability.
Well, it's the most action adventure-y part of it. Do you know what I mean? Because for all its adultness, Rogue One is still a big action adventure movie.
Sure.
And often Andor is not. It's just a drama.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was bits like we mentioned the opening scene and the kind of final scenes of the first arc. Those are your action bits, but the middle is very talky and very, there's little bits of violence here and there. But I think this arc, to get into arc 2, is very, we talked about before we started recording, you called Gorman Space France, and that's exactly what it is. This is the French resistance. Like this is
Space France. The alien language that they talk sounds like French. If you didn't
it's a mix of French and German, I think, actually.
Yeah, if you didn't know, it's like I just heard that, I'd be like, those people are talking French, but they're not. It's they have berets and stuff on Gorman. Like it's like the cliche of like 1940s France, and it's completely doing occupied France, 1940. Like that's what Tony Gilroy is wanting to do with this. He's like, I want to tell a story about occupied France and the resistance and all of that with Star Wars dressing. And I think he does it rather well. Like it really they pull it off.
Very much so. I love the look of these 3 episodes, like the last 3, were directed by Ariel Clayman, who did a great job. I think all 6 of these episodes have looked incredible. These 3 were written by Beau Willimon, who wrote famously the prison arc last season. And I think it's really interesting that he gets this arc this time around, because this one is very much setting up stuff that I think will probably pay off going forward, which, like Gorman, we know from the very first episode is key to Krennic's plan to get, resources. We know, because we're from the future, that it's for the Death Star and this planet. They just need the resistance to do stuff so that they can kind of clamp down on it, like, and have the
they need
be justified, basically.
Yes, they need them to have little wins so they can justify cracking down hard.
Very much so. I love the look of. So it's funny to me that like Syril Karn, who is. He's so naive. I really like this season that he believes in the cause, but he clearly does not know the ins and outs. He's not savvy or maybe cunning or conniving enough to kind of
No.
understand what's going on. I do think that Dedra likes him, whether or not she actually like loves him or like is just using him for, because he's a puppy basically.
He's a
Like,
puppy. Turn off the lights. That
yeah,
scene. It was like,
that
oh
was
my
something.
god. Like it is kind of weird. Like we finally get an implied sex scene in Star Wars, and it's like the most like weird, screwed up thing ever. I mean, we don't see anything, but like it's very like, oh, these people can't look each other in the face during intimacy. Like we know that now. Like these are very dark-sided people, no pun intended. You know what I mean? Like they're very it's like, oh, okay. And I'm like, wow, this is our first real, hint that, sex is going to happen, and they do it and it's just very screwed up.
Yeah, and it's pitch black. Like I love that.
Yes.
I mean, it's the fade out moment, but like we get a few seconds after he turns the light out where it is like you can see nothing in there. And
you can see nothing. He's in over his head with her completely.
Yeah, absolutely. He doesn't understand that she is. Well, he just doesn't know what, we know that she and is part of this Krennic plan, and he just has been, because they need a patsy basically, or they need somebody on the inside. In the first couple of episodes of this arc, I kind of expected Syril to start to kind of go the way of the rebellion, because
I did too.
He thought the ISB was like wrong. And
I thought he was
behaving badly.
I thought what he was saying to the Gorman resistance people was true. Like I really was buying into him. Like, oh, he's seeing it like for real now. And it's one thing to, buy into propaganda, but it's another thing to like experience it. And I thought, but then he has that moment, I think it's in the 3rd episode of this arc, where he's like, this is the greatest day of my life. Like he just wants to be a part of it. And I'm like, oh no, you can't really grow beyond this. This is who you are.
And I think maybe they knew that, it's, these people are not stupid. I think that's the big like takeaway, is that like Dedra Meero is again, she is completely beyond him in terms of like her ability to think and figure things out. And Major Partagaz is like, so like he absolutely knew that if he said good work, Syril, that's all it would take. Like, and it was like, it was so like that moment was really sad.
He just needed that little bit of approval from someone of that stature. To just give him meaning, because he doesn't get it from his mom.
He doesn't get it from his mom, and doesn't really get it from Dedra either, which is sort of, I mean, we talked about it last week, but that the scene where the mom and Dedra have like their kind of come to terms kind of like conversation.
Yeah.
And we realize that like, oh, he just needs to be dominated. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Like,
yes.
He needs a domineering woman in his life. And,
and that's
and
her.
His mom is horrible.
His mom is horrible. Dedra's horrible. That's,
Yeah. It's
crazy we're getting all of this in a Star Wars show. Like all of this.
Totally.
Like,
totally.
I mean, there are moments. I mean, obviously there's things in this that make me think of I don't know if you've seen that movie, The Lives of Others, which is all about like, there's that, but also like there's moments where I'm like, am I watching Mad Men?
Yeah.
Like he comes into this office that he runs that's very kind of mid-century coded, and there's like office, drama. And I'm like, this is feeling like Mad Men, which I never thought I would say about a Star Wars show.
He's being spied on by both sides, basically.
Yes.
Which I thought was really interesting. I really liked the Gorman resistance, or the Gorman front, they're called.
Yeah.
I really liked them as just hey, like we think this sucks and we want to get involved because we are very proud people, and like, I mean, and I don't know, like a very isolationist seeming people.
I mean, even the way that they talk about the Gorman people, like the Imperial people in Coruscant, it's like hearing people talk about the French.
Right.
They're like, they think they're better than us. They're so snooty. They're da-da-da. They're like that, and I'm like, oh my God, this is just very like on the nose here.
Very much. Yeah.
But I like all that. I mean, Star Wars has always been that. So
Yeah.
Never been subtle. Why start now?
No. And again, from the last arc, like we see the Shalandran, I hope I said that right. Like we spend so much time at that wedding and we see like, this is what their culture looks like.
Right.
And like, this is how they celebrate weddings. It's a week-long affair and there's all sorts of like pomp and circumstance. And I seeing kind of the same thing on Gorman where, everyone is very kind of like hoity-toity and pompous, and they do wear berets, which is very like
berets.
And
the only thing they weren't carrying like bags of loaves of bread. I'm like, if they'd had that and striped shirts, I mean that was the only thing they were missing. I don't know. Also, like that's a location where they shot. I think a lot of Andor shot on like.
Yeah,
that's like I want to say that's like a real place in Spain. Someone's going to correct us, but like,
of course,
those really cool. I mean, not all of it. Like some of those interiors are sets, but like that cool like atrium where most of everything takes place, I think is a real place.
Yeah, I'm sure you're right. It's too I don't know, like intricate to be a set. Not that they couldn't build a set like that, but you see, there's the thing that stuck out like a sore thumb when most of the rest of this series looks so great because they do use real sets.
Yeah,
is the little scene in the Senate, and it's just like, oh, this looks not good, like because it's all digital and stuff.
It's all digital.
I really liked Gorman as a society, and I feel like. I feel bad for them because we know that they are basically going to get annihilated. I mean, we assume.
Well, the Gorman massacres, I don't think it's a spoiler. The Gorman massacre is a known thing in Star Wars.
Right.
It's been referenced many times, or at least a few times. Rebels references it. I know that they did an interesting thing here. This is an interesting thing because in non-canon Star Wars material, that's where the Gorman massacre first was mentioned. And clearly they're setting up something, and they said that it's something that happened early in the Imperial days. And then clearly the one that they use in Rebels, or the one they talk about in Rebels, was very recent. But they used the one from non-canon books in this arc. They talk about when Grand Moff Tarkin came and crushed everyone with his cruiser and like just killed people, and now there's a monument to it. That's the one that wasn't canonical, that is now but basically what they're saying is there's two Gorman massacres,
right?
Now, which I thought, I'm like, oh, that's cool that they incorporated this bit of lore, into it and didn't just like, jettison it through the airlock like a lot of that EU stuff.
And it's one of the rare like instances where they have just name checked a character who is from like old stuff. Like they mentioned the Emperor Palpatine because obviously he's the figurehead heir and stuff like that. But mentioning Grand Moff Tarkin, I thought was very cool because first of all, I love Grand Moff Tarkin because it's Peter Cushing, but also that he knowing what we know from him in other media, like in Rebels and things like that, like he would do something like that. He's just like, they won't get out of the way, I'm going to land on him and I don't care. Like, and then we're going to build a monument to it.
And that he's the scary figure that everyone knows. Vader isn't someone that everybody knows about. It's Tarkin. You know what I mean?
Right.
Tarkin is sort of the face of oppression. I mean, I can't think of the right Nazi parallel,
Yeah, exactly.
He's not really the minister of propaganda. You can't really call him that. He's just he's the scariest officer.
Sure.
So whoever was the scariest officer in Hitler's regime, that's Tarkin.
A Martin Bormann or something like that.
Yes,
I don't really.
Yes, that. Yeah. This show very much recognizes that the Death Star, the Empire doesn't have complete control until the Death Star is operational. Like the end goal of everything is, we don't need the Senate. We won't need any of this bureaucracy once everyone's afraid of the planet killer. Right. Because if they don't obey, we'll just destroy them. That's why all of this, the entire Imperial effort is to build this stupid thing. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I like that this show has really been about that.
Mm-hmm.
That they need this so desperately. Because without it, people are already seeing it. People are rebelling.
I find it, we talked about it again last week, but it's something that they've really brought to the forefront this season is that they're both the rebellion and the Empire are kind of scrambling. Like the rebellion is so grassroots and they're trying to make like a concerted effort with it. And, we see in this arc that like Luthen is kind of starting to lose the plot a little bit, or he's so focused on rebellion. That's it. Like, we got to stop them at all costs.
Yeah,
And he's
Luthen is
willing to
super
sacrifice
ruthless
anybody
too.
for it.
I mean,
Yeah, he's
Luthen is
absolutely.
like he knows that a bunch of the Gormans are going to die, and he knows that it's better for the rebellion overall if this happens, and he's willing to sacrifice them. The thing is, he's also willing to sacrifice himself.
Right.
I think once push comes to shove, he knows he's going to die before all of this is over. He's not in Rogue One.
He said that in the first season, right?
Yeah,
He's
like, I'm not going to make it.
I'm not going to see the fruits of this.
Yeah. So he feels like, okay, if other people don't too, then it's not hypocritical. But yeah, he's willing to. He knows that a lot of people are going to die on Gorman. He knows where this is going. But also, they're a high profile planet. Like, they're a fancy planet.
Right.
So
that's a good one to get on their side.
It's a good one to get on their side because people don't care what, I mean, like real life, people don't care what happens to, the poorer people, you know what I mean? They care what happens to like rich people, and that's unfortunate, but like it's Star Wars is reflecting reality there.
Yeah. And we, the flip side of that is that we know that the Empire is like, because Gorman is needed for this project, but also the people of Gorman are rich and proud, that they need to kind of concoct or not stop this rebellion starting. Literally one shot was fired. And they go, well, I guess clamp it down. This is enough. Like, they're going to spin it however they need to and stuff. And it's like, it was such an utter, like, nothing of a, like, if they didn't have Syril there, nobody would have even known that happened.
No one would have known.
Their plans are kind of contingent on propaganda also. And I think it's sort of, it's just, it's testament to that, this one planet. I love the fact that it was focused around this planet, and that both sides kind of come away bad out of it. Like, we know that the Empire is going to succeed, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it went as well as they hoped.
I mean, we know what happens later. So do they succeed?
Sure.
You know what I mean?
I guess that's true. I guess if you have a massacre, it does sort of.
I mean, we know it's not spoiler. I mean, we know from Rebels and other material that like the Gorman massacre is why Mon Mothma leaves finally the Senate. That's known. And so without her, is there a Rebel alliance? Again, like,
sure.
Did it ultimately pay off?
Let's talk about Luthen some more, because I think he was obviously integral to the first arc, in that he basically is sitting there going like, you're going to need to take out your friend, like, or we're just going to have to do it. And which is ultimately what happens off screen, which I thought was really well done. Yes. But in this one, we see that like, he is starting to lose faith in just about everybody. Even his right-hand person. He basically is screaming at her, Clea, like, you're the one who wanted to bug these art things, and now it's going to go all, like, whereas before he would always, I won't say he took responsibility, but it was sort of like, it's all kind of for the greater cause. And the fact that he's like trying to pit Cassian and Bix against each other, or at least,
that was
separate them.
He's I don't really know what he was trying to do there. I mean, that was a bit confusing for me. I'm like, what was the goal of that?
We also learned that Vel and Cinta were like, he split them up specifically because she says Cinta says they're each more valuable to him alone. And I think that is kind of like, he's alone ostensibly, but he needs them to be desperate. And when people aren't desperate, they're not, or they're not, whatever, like, they're not isolated. Like, he's using the same tactics that the Empire's using. Yes. Like, feeding on people's kind of like loneliness and outsider status. And that's what he got from Cassian. And now Cassian has like an actual relationship and a person that he cares about more than the cause and all this stuff.
And that's not good for the cause. Yeah.
That's not good for the cause. And so I think that in this arc, like, Luthen comes across as maybe like his most detestable that we've ever seen him. Yeah. Except maybe in the very first couple of episodes when he was willing to just kill Cassian just cuz. But like, I thought it was really interesting and good. And we do see like, they do succeed at the end. Like, at least somebody succeeded. They got
that was a great scene.
It was really great. It was really wonderful.
Like them trying to get that bug out of the piece of art, all of that in the middle of this party where everybody hates each other, because it's military people with senators, and I don't know, I'm trying to think of a real world equivalent of like, AOC's at a party with the,
I guess so. It's just like high society people. And it's like, but the fact that like this was going to be like, if that guy found whose name I can never remember, but the bad guy, whatever his name is.
Are you talking about the mole? No. The guy the one who found it. Yeah. I don't remember his name.
Davos Skulldune, a shady businessman.
Yes.
Who, he's basically just like, get all these out of here. Like this was a fake piece of art or whatever. He was going to just chuck the entire collection. And so they really were under the gun to try to get this bug out before anybody noticed it and get it reappraised and everything like that. And the fact that everyone was in the room at the same time and that Krennic was there. And like, I really, even amid that scene where it's tense for other reasons, that tete-a-tete between Krennic and Mon Mothma was really great, and everyone just kind of laughs and stuff like that. But at the end of which, when she actually succeeds and they're walking outside, and Luthen finally cracks a smile, like a legitimate smile for the first time in a long time, and says like, we should have just killed him, and they like laugh about it and stuff. And I thought that moment was really good, juxtaposed to.
It would have been better if they had killed him. I mean, it's one of those things where like,
we know that, of course, Let's kill that guy. Like, what are you going to do? I mean, I just recently rewatched Inglourious Bastards, which is one of my very favorite movies. And obviously that is fiction to a degree that is that off-putting for people at times. But the idea that you legitimately do need to get, cut off the head of the snake if there is no leader. And we saw that in the first arc where like Cassian with those rebels on Yavin, they were basically not rebels. Like they just were like talking about doing stuff, and they had absolutely no leadership. And here we see that like Mon Mothma and Krennic are the ostensible leaders of this movement, and
having to make nice.
Having to make nice.
Having to make nice and like drink champagne.
And I love that he knows that she's a rebel. Like he knows it. Like, or at least not sympathetic to it.
Yeah, they know that they're sympathetic. It's kind of unclear how much the Empire knows about her, and some like they never really reveal that. I mean, they have to know where their sympathies lie.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, they know that at the very least she's not like, for all appearances, like she's not on board.
She's not Team Palpatine. No,
she's not Team Palpatine. We obviously see at the end of the last arc, the moment where I guess they hadn't seen each other in a long time, but Vel and Cinta see each other again, and then in this one, they're both kind of sent to Gorman after Cassian goes, "This is not worth doing," and then of course Luthen disagrees. It's amazing that you and I end up talking about this a lot, but they fridged her. I was so mad. Like, what are you doing?
They fridged her.
You were above this show. I guess they're not. You know what? 100% not, because the last arc, obviously, so much of Bix's arc this show has been about trauma and continued abuses and things like that. So I guess I shouldn't. As
we record this, those episodes have not aired. I'm already exhausted by the discourse that hasn't happened. Like it's gonna be ugly. Okay, but with this, yes, they fridged her. But like in the story, like this show isn't going to go. You know what I mean? Like there's a limited amount of time on this show, and this is about a rebellion where people die. Do you know what I mean? Like I understand. Like me as a queer person, I understand that it's a kill your gays thing. That one of the the only like gay relationship we've seen in Star Wars, ends in tragedy. But at the same time, this is the tone of this show. Would we have cared if it wasn't, I don't know, if this was a straight couple, or I don't like it. Like it just fit with the story, like, and it gave us a great moment after where she like is in the where they were getting away, and she's like, "Don't you dare cry." So you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's worth it. It's unfortunate when we have to, when these stories bump up against kind of stereotypical things. You know what I'm saying? Like it's unfortunate, I know. But like at the same time, like that's where the story's going. And then you're kind of bending the story to not look bad or
well, the only person we know well and truly gets out okay. Well, I mean, is Mon Mothma because she doesn't die in Rogue One. That's basically it.
Mon Mothma doesn't die in Rogue
She's
One.
the only person we know for sure.
And Cassian dies in Rogue One, so he has to get out of the show.
Right.
You know,
But
almost everyone else has a target on them.
Yeah. So I agree. Like I'm not expecting anybody to, I'm not expecting everyone, certainly, but like I'm definitely not expecting plot armor the way that certain other shows have given characters plot armor. It was just sort of like, well, she hadn't been like a main character, and it just kind of reinforced
it was
that.
like, oh, you're back, and then to die. Yeah, I get that. I get it. I get why people will be irritated, but at the same time, I don't know. I wasn't as irritated as I thought I would be, only because of the nature of the show.
Right.
The nature of this show is people die in rebellions. These are ugly acts that they have to commit, and they're not all going to make it.
And also, Varada Sithu is on Doctor Who now, so she's got plenty. She's got stuff going on. She's fine.
Nobody's coming back for season 3 because there's not one.
There's not one, right? Exactly. Yeah. But overall, I do think that was sort of like, I'll be interested to see how this plays out. As of recording this, I haven't watched further. Like, I'm trying not to do that. I'll be interested to see how this like reflects on, because obviously Vel is Mon Mothma's cousin, and there's already some tension building between Rael and Mon Mothma because of the way he does stuff. That she can be the idealistic one with a little bit of realism, whereas he is the pure realist, who's just like, well, this is what we have to do in order to.
Yeah, there's not much difference between him and Saw, really, at the end of the day.
Great bring up, because we do get some Saw Gerrera in this, and
I'm confused by the Saw stuff. Like, I don't really sure what's going on. Like, that's just me maybe being dumb, but I'm like, what's going on? Which, by the way, they had a Force Awakens callback in, which very rarely for modern Star Wars. The base that they're on Dakar. Dakar is where
that is that place. Okay,
that's which they say, I think, in the Force Awakens or in the comics of adaptations, that it's an old Rebel base. And it's like, okay, well, now we see where it comes from. That was a nice little thing.
They've done that twice now, where we've seen a planet, and then when they take off from that planet, it's like, oh, it's that planet. It's specifically that planet.
Yeah, this one was the opposite. It was like, when you get there, they're like, it has a little, it's like Dakar. I'm like, oh yeah, that planet.
Yeah, so that is interesting. But yeah, I feel like, well, it's Saw Gerrera is the guerrilla fighter. Like you know, that whole thing. He does things differently, and it's sort of like, he's no less a rebel, but he is the loose cannon that the actual Alliance cannot afford to have. He's out there doing stuff that they agree with. Yeah, or at least for the purposes of stuff they agree with. But like,
he's doing things that they benefit from.
Sure, yeah, benefit, yeah.
But they have to. But they're also sort of like disgusted. I mean, Saw Gerrera's the name is, again, Star Wars names are not subtle. Saw Gerrera is meant to sound like Che Guevara. You know what I mean? Sure. Like, it's like, that's who he is in this scenario, and he goes too far. And yeah, I'm the least invested in the Saw stuff this arc. Like, I just didn't. Like, I was like, what's going on here? Like, why do I care?
When it doesn't help that the kid who is the one character I really don't care about.
I don't care about him.
I don't know anything about him.
I don't know anything about him. I don't care about him.
So it's like, he's there. And that was the same guy from the first arc, right? Like the guy, the eventual spy. Okay. I was just making sure that I didn't have face blindness, which I don't. But that's good to know. So I like that they were tying that together. Like, he somehow got off that planet, but we know he's a moron. So I think it's interesting that, like, he thought he was just coming to teach this guy stuff and then leave. And it's like, once you're even around Saw Gerrera, like, you're in it, or he'll kill you. The whole thing about breathing the atmosphere and it's all this stuff.
I was confused. I was like, wait.
So I think there must be some sort of thing where, because we know Saw Gerrera has that weird breathing apparatus. Yeah. I think he's just high all the time. I think he's just like,
it's very Dune. It's very Dune.
Absolutely.
It's very Dune. He's high all the time. That's another. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just don't care about this kid. Like, I'm like, we only have 12 episodes this season. Why are I
and who even is him?
Yeah, who you don't even go here, like, like, I don't want to waste time with him. And there's too much of that in this arc, but whatever.
So we do need to talk about Cassian, as he is the main character ostensibly, and Bix, who I think Bix has had a rough go of it, especially after last arc. We now find that she is basically secluded in this apartment and is a drug addict because Cassian is so fearful for her safety that he refuses to let her go anywhere. She basically can't do anything by herself. Yeah. He doesn't even want her to go to the store. Like he's with her. Like he's so concerned.
Well, I mean, she's been through it.
She's been through it,
you know.
But also that illustrates what we were talking about a little while ago, which is that he now has somebody that he cares for and has something to lose.
Yes.
And so he's, whether you agree with his assessment of Gorman or not, like he was not willing to go forward with it because he's just like, it isn't worth it because they're too far behind and whatever. Whereas Luthen sees the full potential of a planet like that and the people there. But I kind of was like, I don't know. I definitely don't agree with Cassie in the way he's handling this, but I do like by the end, she finally gets to kill her torturer, which
that was very satisfying.
Was very, very satisfying.
That was very satisfying. I always like a good revenge, kill the torturer moment.
And then they blow it up. So it's still an act of, rebellion. It's not just personal, but it is also personal.
Exactly. That was a great moment.
Yeah.
That was really, really good.
And I hope that'll bring her back into the actual front because, just because she's Cassian's wife or whatever, they're actually, that's no reason to just sideline her. And I'm glad that they've dealt with that. The fact that Luthen is just like, I need you both useful and active.
Yes.
And if you're scared to lose her and she's on drugs and not able to leave, you're not useful to me.
Yeah. And that's all he cares about.
That's all he cares about. Yeah.
He doesn't care about them as people. I feel like Leia is the only person he cares about as a person.
That's probably true. And that's just because he spends so much time with her.
Yeah.
I liked that arc. I like the Cassian, I like the whole thing where Cassian goes to Gorman and, he's playing the role. He's basically doing the Luthen rail thing where he's pretending to be really, outlandish and everything. But he also is just, not willing to play ball. And we see actually, if he'd have been there or helped earlier on, maybe something would have been different or anything like that. But, or is he the smart one? Cause he realized this is a lost cause, It's hard to say.
He has that nice moment with the bellhop.
That was a really good one. Yeah.
That was a good moment. And it was also you get the sense that the bellhop knows he's not who he says he is and that he's there for other, he sees through the whole bullshit. I'm a fashion designer,
Yeah. Yeah. I just thought everything about Gorman I thought was really interesting and good. And it felt, and knowing that it was the French resistance, it's just oh, this is cool. I get what they're doing.
I mean, it's very George Lucas. Again, no need to be 100%. Subtle. Nope. I wish there were more alien. I mean, that's my one. If I have a complaint about this show is that the Star Wars universe has become very human.
Yeah.
There's a little more aliens this season, but kind of not. It was a pretty 50-50 ratio in pretty much Star Wars before between humans and non-humans, and there's a lot of humans. And I feel again, this is Tony Gilroy wanting to make allegory with real world, with real history.
Yeah.
And I don't, think he's that interested in the alien part of it, but it's that's Star Wars. It's a big galaxy.
Absolutely.
It's a big galaxy and there's weird looking things everywhere. They're a little bit more peppered throughout in this season, but maybe not to my satisfaction, but
to the point where when one of the alien characters, I forget even which episode, it was one of these 3 episodes, there was an alien on Gorman or wherever and spoke, and it was a weird alien voice. And I was like, oh yeah, this is still Star Wars.
It's still Star Wars. Yeah.
It was a weird moment.
Well, something that they don't touch upon it's only in expanded materials. And it's just implicit, I guess, in what we watch, but that the Empire is human supremacist. Mm-hmm. There are no aliens.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
There are no Thrawn is a very, very big exception, and even then he's humanoid. And it's not something that's really super talked about. It is in novels. I know that there's an Andor prequel novel that's out now that I have not read, but someone I know read it, and they said that there's a moment where Mon Mothma is early in the Empire, in the early Empire days, is at a a soiree the one she's in this episode, and she very quickly notices there's no non-humans here. It's like that now. It's one of the few times, but on the show they don't really ever address that.
No, and they never really have elsewhere, and it's sort of, it is just implied, but then you see the Rebel Alliance and they're full of aliens and different types of people, and so that's interesting that it was.
It just feels like this is the show that would have really, like, they would have gone there, and it seems like that aspect of things wasn't what he was interested in.
No, I think he's got a very clear, and he's also letting stuff be subtle, like where it needs to be subtle, which is again something that Star Wars is not 100% good at. Usually spells everything out very directly. I think overall these 3 episodes worked really well for me. They were not as exciting or as, like, I was, again, we talked about it last week, but like I was blown away by some of the performances and some of the choices that they made last week, especially in the Mon Mothma, wedding storyline.
Yeah.
Genevieve
I think
O'Reilly,
Mon Mothma's storyline was superior.
Very much so. Very, very much so.
I mean, often that was the case in season 1 too.
Yeah, she was the best part of season 1. Like she and Stellan Skarsgård, and then they got to be in the same arc that first, you know what I mean? So they were, the two of them together, they were clearly the best arc. I do like that Cassian got more to do this arc. Like he's very, I won't say sidelined in the first arc, but what he's doing is very kind of remote. It's provincial what he's up to, whereas we, everybody, and honestly, like Dedra and Syril also were fairly remote in the first arc, and this one kind of brings everybody much closer together in terms of like their importance and everything. And at one point all of our main characters were on Gorman in this arc, I believe. I don't know if Luthen was there, but maybe. I don't think he was.
No, Luthen wasn't there, but that was almost everybody else.
He specifically didn't go. Yeah. Or at least were involved with Gorman, and so that was really great, because that hasn't happened like ever.
Yeah, because Mon Mothma's not there, but she's involved with the story.
Right.
She's involved with, trying to get the people from Gorman to like be more vocal, and everybody's afraid. So unlike reality.
Yeah. So I again, like I was saying, I still liked it. It's still far and away the best Star Wars thing, but this one really felt like it was table setting and kind of just like exploring a theme. It wasn't like the first season where the second arc was a heist. You know what I mean? Like setting up for a heist and all that stuff. This one felt the least actiony of any of them. Doesn't mean it was bad. It just means
it's not bad. Again, these first 2 arcs, there's a little bit too much wheel spinning of like, okay, we have to get this, and then you have a little bit dead weight, like that one kid with Saw. Like, I'm like, I don't care.
That was,
we haven't talked about the recasting, the big Star Wars recasting, which is revealed.
That's right. So I was sort of surprised. You had seen this before me, so you kind of teed me up, but Benjamin Bratt has been cast as Bail Organa instead of Jimmy Smits. Thoughts? Like that's a pretty big recasting.
It's a big recasting. Bail's important. I mean, he's fine. Like, I mean,
sure. He's barely in this.
I feel it would be less jarring the only reason it's so jarring for me is because Jimmy Smits plays him in Rogue One. So if you decide one day to do a Star Wars chronological watch of the prequels, Kenobi, this Rogue One, there's the weird blip where Bail Organa is someone else. Do you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying?
I do.
Other than that, like, he looks older than Jimmy Smits. I think they're around the same age, but he looks a little bit older. Like, around this time, this is what he would look like. So it doesn't. It's a little bit jarring. I like Jimmy Smits in that role. I mean, it's a thankless role, but it's like, I like him in that.
Yeah, he brings gravitas to it. Like I've always liked him there too. But it was. They did go out of their way to be like, Bail Organa, good to see you.
Yeah, exactly. Like, this is who this is, people. Like, it's the Iron Man 2 thing. Like when Don Cheadle walks in, it's like, yeah, it's me. Get used to it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it was, he's fine. I do wish. I mean, I don't know. Is it a spoiler to say that someone doesn't show up? I wish Leia was in this. I wish Leia was mentioned in this show, because she should be around at this point.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, she would.
She's a junior senator at this point in the story. I know that would seem young, but
because
as we know from the prequels, people serve in the Senate at 14.
Yeah. So this is only 3 years before the Battle of Yavin. So absolutely, like
she's a junior senator at this point.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that they should show her. I know that that's touchy, like, either recasting or, But like, hey, what's Leia doing? Like, I would like to know,
Yeah.
especially now
Even
that the
something
Organa.
like, how is your daughter? Like that would, they,
Yes, like, how
something
is
like
your
that.
daughter? Yeah, she's just started. It was her first day as a junior, something like that. To be like, yeah,
Something,
she's out here. This is a very, very important character. It's easier to never have to explain where Luke is because we know, but Leia was important in the rebellion. Rebels did one episode where they dealt with it, where we got to see her and what she was doing around this time. So we know she's doing stuff.
Yeah,
she's working for her dad. So, but yeah, he's fine. Benjamin Wright. It's not that he's bad or anything. It's just it was a little bit like, oh, okay. And they didn't announce it in advance, so it's sort of like,
yeah, it was kind of it was a surprise. I mean, if you hadn't told me that, I would have been surprised.
Maybe they didn't want to reveal that Bail Organa was going to be in it, but I'm like, to me, that was a given that he would be in it at some point.
Yeah, he's one of the main guys.
When I was a kid, I did think that Bail Organa was going to be a huge character in the prequels, and then he wasn't. Like, I remember thinking, like, because I figured, whoever adopts Leia is going to be really important in the story, and he's semi-important at best.
Yeah, semi-important at best. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, I mean, he's there. Like, he's in some crucial scenes in Sith specifically, but yeah, I always thought that like he was going to be like at least a Lando level of importance to the story, to the originals, and he wasn't. But strangely, he's been super important to so much post. He's in Rebels. He's Rogue One. Like all the other stuff that's come since has acknowledged him in a big way.
Knowing that the council of people who, like, once the Empire started to take over was Obi-Wan, Yoda, and Bail Organa. It's like, oh, cool. Like, what's that going to be like? And then it ended up just being, well, I'll take the daughter because my wife and I always wanted a daughter, but I'm not taking that boy. It's like, well,
yeah. Well, they wanted him split up.
I know, but it was still just like it was a silly scene.
Yeah.
Did not seem to like really address the gravity of the situation. Also, why would somebody who is even tangentially close to Darth Vader like want to take one? You know what I mean? They should have hidden them both. Anyway, this is neither here nor there because it doesn't matter because he didn't know that was her. But any final thoughts about season 2 Andor episodes 4, 5, and 6?
Good. I still don't think it matches the level, I think, of season 1, these first 2 arcs. But still really good TV.
Still great. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's still really good TV. The production, I mean, I no Star Wars has looked better since the original trilogy. I mean, 100%. That much I can just say right now. Like, it looks incredible, and it's because they shoot so much on real locations.
Yeah,
I mean, it does matter. The acting is superb. Again, there's just some wheel spinning that I'm not crazy about. Some characters that I'm like, they don't need to be here, But yeah, no. Overall, it's pretty great. I don't think we're gonna, like I said earlier, I don't think we're ever going to get another Star Wars like this.
No.
So we should relish it, savor it, because I don't think it's happening. I don't think the show gets the kind of numbers that they want for the expense that it is. And so I think their experiment in grown-up Star Wars is probably short-lived. So everybody eat now. Buffet's gonna close.
Yeah, that's very true. Well, this is one that, like, I'm happy to watch again. I was talking to a friend of the show, Michael Walsh, earlier today about stuff in these kind of big franchises that that we all cover that you would watch again, because we watch this all for work. Like that, we would watch it probably anyway, but we watch it all for work.
I can't lie, I'd watch it anyway.
So because of that, I don't tend to rewatch a lot of stuff because it's sort of, we got to move on to the next thing, but also because it's work and I've spent so much time on it, I kind of feel like, okay, I don't really need to revisit that for fun in my off hours. But this is one where I will, they have the first season out on physical media, and I hope they have the second one too, because it sucks. I'm sure they will.
And I will say, I have the first season on 4K, and I haven't watched all of it because, again, like, it's a lot.
It's long.
It's long. The 4Ks look stunning. I mean, they look better than streaming by a not insignificant amount.
I mean, that alone, folks, you want to see the best looking Star Wars looking the best ever, you get physical media.
Physical media, that's how it looks great. Yeah. Those Andor 4Ks look great. So yeah, it is one of those things. Yeah, it's true. A lot of recent stuff, even if I loved it, like it's we don't have time to go back.
We don't have time.
Like, it's like, oh, we're on to the next thing now. And it's like, maybe
even
years
stuff
from
I
now.
like, I'm like,
oh yeah,
like,
stuff I love.
It gets to a point where I go like, I don't know if I would ever watch that again. Like, well, I think at this point, given what has sort of happened afterwards, like I loved the first season of The Mandalorian, but I probably won't ever rewatch that at this point because it's just, there's too much baggage now.
I will. It's just going to be
and it's gonna, maybe I will, and it'll just take a long time. But like, I was thinking like, turning to the MCU for a moment, like I will probably rewatch Hawkeye because I thought that show was really fun and good. I probably will rewatch Loki at some point.
I'll rewatch WandaVision for sure.
Yeah, like shows like that are not nearly as long as Andor, but like that have kind of their own vibe. I think are much more exciting to me than stuff like a lot of the Star Wars things, which are all doggedly tied to, because even Andor, as great as it is doggedly tied to a specific time in the actual, within the bounds of the
Skywalker
Lucas
saga.
years. Yeah. And it's not dealing with any of those people directly, which I love. And that's why I love it, or one of the reasons I love it. But it's so much like that was a problem with early MCU stuff. Like once we got to like, late phase 2, and I'm like, and I hear about people being like, oh, I rewatched the entire MCU before every new movie. I like, who still does it? Does anybody do it? You'd take weeks to have to do that.
Yeah. No,
you basically would start the second.
I have
one
a
of the
few
movies
that are comfort viewing, but like I have a lot of things that I half watch, and there's some stuff in the MCU like that I half watch a lot that I have on in the background because it's like, oh, I like this. I like this part of Age of Ultron or whatever, or this part of, but like really sitting and paying attention and like I'm gonna watch. I'm like, not a lot of stuff from the last 15 years. No,
not even a bit.
So,
but Andor, it's great. I love it. This is maybe the weakest arc so far, and it's still great TV. So I'm not even mad about it. So, next week we will be talking about episodes 7, 8, and 9 with Dan Casey. I'm very excited to watch those, but also to talk to Dan about it.
They're really good.
Oh my God, spoilers!
They're really good.
Here's some spoilers for people. Eric, how can people get a hold of you and your work on the internet?
You can find me at Geekboy Eric on Instagram and on Blue Sky, the same, Geekboy Eric.
And you can read all of Eric's stuff, as always, on Nerdist.com. And you can listen to our back episodes if you want to listen to us drone on and on and on about the MCU and other Marvel things. We have done many episodes like that. So
DC things.
And DC things too. Yeah, we'll have more of that to talk about. Obviously, we have, you will be on for both the Superman episode and the Fantastic Four episode, I imagine. I haven't asked you yet, but I imagine you'll be on both of those if you want to.
I want to. I'm very excited for both of them. So yeah,
me too. Those are my number ones for the year. Co-number ones. We'll see. Yeah. So thank you very much for listening. I've been Kyle Anderson. You can follow me on Letterboxd at Kyle_Anderson. I don't post anywhere else on social media anymore. But you can send a carrier pigeon if you feel the need. I'll probably find it. I am probably going to shoo it away because I don't probably realize it's a carrier pigeon, but just you're free to do it. Thank you for listening to Laser Focus. Thank you for watching. Those of you who've been watching on YouTube, join me again next week when my guest will be a different person, the aforementioned Dan Casey. Bye-bye. Laser Focus is a production of Nerdist Industries and Legendary Digital Networks. It was edited by Adam Murray and hosted by me, Kyle Anderson. For more, visit Nerdist.com.